Hi, so I'm really excited today. I've got the SDX135 Pro Scanncut and we're going to open the box, get it out and set it up. So let's get started. Okay, so you'll see we have a picture here of the starter project, which is a lovely gift box. And there's a little bit of advice that just says, before turning on, please read the getting started guide. Okay, let's make the gift box for your first project. Okay, so these are the instructions for our starter project. So let's open this up and see what's inside. Okay, so we get a nice little booklet here just showing you some of the projects you can make with your Scanncut. And lots of these, in fact all of these I think are free on Canvas Workspace. So if you haven't got a Canvas Workspace account, then I highly recommend you do so. And there's a little bit about machine setup, so we'll go through that as well in a moment. And we have a quick reference guide, and just a leaflet about included accessories. Okay, so this is your lead with your plug. So we'll just open this. A little tricky to do one-handed, but we'll get there. Okay, so that's our plug, so I'll just put that to one side as well. And now let's have a look at what else we've got. We have our standard tack adhesive mat, which the 135 comes with, and you have some beautiful cards to do your first project with. So all that's remaining is for me to lift the machine out of the box and just remove some of the packaging. So while your machine's under warranty, I would highly recommend that you keep the box. It also comes in handy if you're moving house. Obviously you can package your machine back up securely so it doesn't get damaged. So just, you can break the box down, but just keep it out in case of any problems. Okay, so I want to show you a few features of the machine itself. So this is a scanner lever. This allows you to drop down your scanner bed if you're scanning through thicker materials. So in most situations, for cutting, drawing, etc., your scanner lever is going to need to be set at 2, and that just flicks up and down, but the machine will tell you when to adjust the scanner lever, and that's just on the left hand side of the machine. So if we have a look at the back of the machine, you'll see we have some tape here which you'll just need to remove. And you're going to pull out this little tray at the back, which just supports the mat as it goes in and out of the machine. Now when you've finished making a project or using your machine for the day, that just slides back in. So the screen is really sturdy on the SDX series, so you're just going to lift it up until you find an angle that you're comfortable with, and when you're finished, just press it back down, and you will need to give it a slight push in order to get it back down. Okay, so let's get started and lift the screen up, and we're going to open the dust cover, and you'll see here that we have some visual instructions on the correct way to load the mat into the machine. So I'm going to remove this and I'm going to keep it for future reference. And we have some cardboard and tape just protecting the carriage and tool holder. So let's remove that as well. And again, I would put this back in your box in case you ever need to repackage your machine, to, you know, if you're moving house or if you have to send it back for any reason. Okay, so I really love this little well here, so you'll be able to put your stylus here and it won't be able to roll away from you. We have a little well here for storage, which is where I generally tend to keep my USBs. We have a little storage tray and our storage area. So let's just peel back the sticker, and in here you'll find your accessories. So we have our pouch. So as you can see, we've got plenty of storage for our tools and our stylus. So you can pop things in there, you can pop your USBs in there. I tend to keep my weeding tools and other bits and pieces in here as well. So they just pop back down, and you'll see this front area is much sturdier than the CM series, and this front tray supports the mat really well as it goes in and out of the machine, and helps keep your material attached to your mat and stops it popping up off your mat. Okay, so if we have a look in the pouch, you'll see we have our stylus, our black auto blade and our spatula. So let's get the machine turned on. If we have a look at the back of the machine, this is where we plug our power lead into, and it's just a simple 3-pin kettle plug. So that just goes in there, and I'll make sure that's nice and firmly in. So I'm going to pull my rear tray out. I'm going to turn around the machine now and we'll get started. This is the on and off button. We have a home button, load mat and start and pause. To turn the machine on, you're just going to press down the button and hold it just for a second or two. And how exciting is this? The machine starting itself up. So you'll see a splash screen, and again it just shows you some of the projects that you can make. That pincushion is really cute. So you can see here how lovely and clear the 5-inch screen is on the SDX135. So I'm really happy with the quality of the screen. So I'm just going to tap anywhere on the screen to start. The carriage will move to the initial position. Keep your hands away from the carriage. So I'm just going to click OK. I would need at a later date to set my machine up with my Wi-Fi, but we'll go through that later. But let's have a look at some of the patterns and features on the machine. So this is where our onboard patterns are. So if I click pattern, we have a series of folders which contains all our patterns. The first one is basic shapes. And this is a really useful folder. I tend to create a lot of stencils and various things from this folder, and do a lot of welding for card shapes and adding additional shapes to my projects. So then we have this folder here with the Eiffel Tower, which is our main pattern collection. And once again, we have a whole sub-series of folders. So if you scroll down, you'll see that there's more. So I'm going to scroll back up. So spend some time just flicking through and having a look at all the patterns. I particularly love this sunflower here. As you can see, we have various flower shapes. So we have some, I believe they call this logos, but we have some welded words here. So let's have a flick through those so you can see those. That is really nice to celebrate. So I've used that before on projects. So congratulations. This is another favourite of mine. This create pattern here. I've used that on the front of my folder to keep my scan and cut manuals and notes in. So family, happy birthday. So in this folder here we have borders. So let's scroll down, and these are really useful to either use on their own or you could weld them to another shape. And I've done that before for some shape cards. That's lovely, the birds on the branch. I love that one. So if you like scenic cards, the grass is really useful as well. And again, if we just click on one, they're all resizable. So that was probably near its maximum size, but you could shrink that down to a size that you feel happy with. So as you can see, there's lots of really, really beautiful borders. So we have some solid cut lines, we have some perforation lines, some wavy lines, and some other corners. So I particularly like this one as well, that pattern. I think that's beautiful. And this is a really, really beautiful border. I love that pattern. That cuts absolutely beautiful, those roses. So let's go back to home. So these are the fonts that we get with the 135. So we get 9 fonts in various styles. So you have lots for other projects, whatever style of projects you want to create. And also, if you get Canvas Workspace and the downloadable or PC based version, you'll be able to use any font that's on your computer or any font that you download to create a file and send it across to your SDX. So we have some drawing files. You could also use these for embossing or foiling. And lastly, we have this great section here of quilt patterns. So we have a stunning range here if you like to sew as I do. So if I just select one of those and say OK, you'll see that the machine breaks each individual part of the quilt block down into separate shapes, so you can cut the right shapes all together in one go. So it would cut all the triangles for you in one go. Okay, so even more quilt blocks. And even more quilt blocks. So that's a quick look around the patterns. We have our scanning function. So here we have direct cuts. So that's maybe if you have some pattern cards or maybe a stamp that you've stamped and you want to cut out. We have scan to cut data. If maybe you've got a die cut and you've got permission to scan that in, you can scan that in and create a cut file from it. We've got scan to USB, so you can scan your documents and photos in. And this machine does have 600 DPI, so you'll get a really high quality scan. and you can also scan in and send something to Canvas Workspace. Obviously, once you've got your wireless set up. So if I scroll across again, we have our roll feeder, which is a separate accessory. So if you've got a roll feeder, we'll go through that at a later date as well. This is where your the machine will tell you how to attach your roll feeder and how to start cutting your rolled material if you want to do large designs for walls, anything like that. So I'm just going to click yes because I've finished with that. This is where our premium functions will appear, I believe. So I haven't set that up yet, but I will do. And my collection, if we plug a USB in, and I'll just find my USB. On the right hand side of the machine here, you'll see we have a USB port. So I'm just going to pop my USB in. And if we go to my collection, once I've set this up, I'll be able to download my activation cards to my USB and access them really easily from this section here, but I haven't set that up yet, but I will do that and show you how to do that. So if we go back home, we have retrieve data. So we have these options to retrieve a pattern from the machine's memory. So if you save something you created to the machine's memory, you can retrieve it easily. Retrieve from Canvas Workspace, and that's grayed out because I haven't got my wireless set up yet. Retrieve from USB, so I've got my USB plugged in. So there's the pattern, something I've saved onto a USB. If I've got my data lead plugged to my computer or laptop, I can retrieve something from there. Okay, so we can also still do test cuts, and we'll go through that at a later date. We have our wrench icon, which is our settings. And here we can change from millimeters to inches. Choose how far our shapes are away from each other on the screen, and that's really useful for when you create your own patterns. So we can change our cut area to a 12 by 20 format. Now the SDX135 can use a 12 by 20 format. It'll cut on it, no problem at all. It just doesn't scan a 12 by 20 format. Okay, but you can certainly cut on a 12 by 20 format, so you can fill this up with shapes and just leave the machine to cut. So that's fantastic. So we have cut speed. So if you've had a CM series machine in the past, you'll know that cut speed is normally a maximum of 5. Now on the SDX series, that goes up to 9. And the default factory setting is always outlined in black. So we have our cut pressure set at auto because this is an auto blade machine, meaning we don't have to set blade depth or pressure. If we have a manual blade from our CM series, we can also set the cut pressure for that in the machine. Our half cut function, half cut pressure, draw speed, so that goes up to 5. You've got your seam allowance setting for when you're creating quilt blocks or other patterns, and just lots of other various things. There's too much for me to show you at the moment. So if you've got any premium functions like I have, you would just switch those on. So I've already got the paper piercing kit, the foil kit and the embossing kit. So I can just click on in the settings on this machine and I'll be able to use my kits for my previous machine straight away and just say OK. And I can register this machine with Canvas Workspace. Okay, so let's see how the machine cuts. We're going to make the test project that comes with the machine. So that's the gift box. So if we go into pattern, and we're going to go to our main folder of patterns here and scroll down until we find our gift box. And I'm going to select the plain one here, and I'm going to leave it at its default size. And I think that's about 8.5 inches in width from there to there. So I'm going to say set and leave it its default size. Okay, so this is our standard mat. So this is the stickiest mat that Brother do. So it has a dust cover which you're going to just peel off and put to one side, because when you're finished cutting you just need to put the dust cover back on just to protect the mat and retain its stick. So this is a brand new mat, so I'm going to just lightly attach my cardstock to the mat, and I'm not going to press too firmly as it's a brand new mat with plenty of stick. So I'm just going to lightly press that down and we're ready to start cutting. The other thing I would say is just make sure you've got plenty of room at the back of the machine for your mat to go in and out. Okay, so you just need a bit of clearance at the back for your mat. So I'm just lining up the mat between these two edges here, and the SDX mat goes in one way, so you have your triangles showing which way up to load your mat. You also have a little cutout at the bottom if you want to hang your mats up. So I will just hold that lightly and then press the load mat button. So let's do that. So I've lined the mat up and I'm just holding it lightly, and I'm going to press the load mat button, and it's going to say if you've been playing with the feed roller, it will just say check the feed roller position before cutting. I haven't got anything to worry about, I don't need to check it, so I'm going to say OK, and the mat will load in. With the SDX135 you get your black top standard auto blade, so you just pull the cap off. There's nothing to adjust, there's no settings here, the machine will automatically adjust the depth of the blade. So I don't know if you can see that, but that's the blade there. So that will just go up and down as the machine calculates how deep the material is. So your auto blade holder just pops into the tool carriage, and you're just going to press the lever down. So I have my pattern set up onto the machine and some material set onto the mat. Now if you've got a smaller piece of material, you can do a background scan and move this cut file directly over your material on your mat so you don't waste any materials. So shall we do that? So you would press the scanner button, which is this one in the middle here. And you'll see that the image of our material on the mat comes up onto the screen. Now I've got some dark cardstock on the mat, but you can lighten your background by going into wrench, and under background, if you just click this icon here and say OK, you can see that I can see that more clearly now, and I can just move my cut file into the right position. So I'm going to say OK, select and cut. And all we have to do is just touch start. So it's just going to take 3 minutes to cut, and I want you to hear how quiet this machine is. So it's just checking the depth of the material on the mat so it knows how far to cut. Okay, so the machine's finished cutting, so I'm just going to say OK. And once you've finished with your machine for the day, do take the blade out, the blade holder out, and just replace the cap. So we're going to unload the mat and close the dust cover. So to get the material off a brand new or very sticky mat, I recommend turning the mat over to the back side and peeling away the mat from the material instead of the other way round. So just take your time doing that. So always keep your scraps as well, because there's no such thing as even a tiny scrap with the Scanncut. So I'm just going to turn the back mat back over. Now I've released the waste and removed the main cup from the mat. You can also get an additional scraper just to scrape those bits off your mat, or if you haven't got one of those yet, just use your spatula, which I've just put to one side, so let me just find that. So just use your spatula to get under the waste and just remove those bits off the mat. And those come off really easily. So another question I get asked a lot is, oh, I've got score lines left in my mat, and that's all completely normal. So don't worry if you've got score lines in, that's meant to happen and nothing has gone wrong. You're just going to replace the dust cover to protect your mat. I want to show you how easy it is to put this project together. Now the machine, I don't know if you can see this. I think you can if I just move that in the light. The machine has created all the score lines for us, so we haven't got to get out a scoreboard or do any more work. We're just going to fold the sides in. So just fold your 4 sides of your gift box. Okay, so I've folded all my sides in, and then you just simply line up your crown at the top. And you're just going to put the crown into the little slots. So this is your little locking mechanism or your closing mechanism for your gift box. So I'm just going to line that up. It's a bit hard to do looking through a camera screen. So you're just going to line the crown up at the top and just slot that all together. So there's one side. So there's one side, and we'll just do the other side. So I'm just going to slot this into the other side. And there's our beautiful gift box. So it's as quick and easy as that. Just 3 minutes and we have a beautiful first project. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this unboxing video of the SDX135. Thanks for watching.